So that's why I decided, you know what, better to be comfortable than dripping in sweat during the broadcast. So that's where we stand here in Mississippi for sure. Luckily, not talking any impacts to our area specifically when we're talking about Bertha. Most of those impacts right along the Gulf Coast. So for anyone at the beach, including our chief meteorologist Matt Lobpon and his family down at the beach right now, that's where the impacts are being seen with some of those gusty conditions as well as a ton of rainfall. So for us, our story, heat getting better heading into our Wednesday. Storms possible overnight as we approach Wednesday. That's a reason why we are getting some of that limited relief, but we do have consequences with storms possible overnight. We'll track that out using our futurecast here in just a moment. And Bertha continues to threaten the Gulf. You know, when we're talking about impacts, it really comes in the form of some limited storm surge as well as those gusty winds. Here's a look out of Biloxi, 96 degrees, feels like 106. Still getting some of those storms there off of the coast, but we're going to continue to keep eyes on that for sure. Here's a look at the first 12, but before we get what's going on here in North Mississippi, let's hear from our chief meteorologist Matt Lobpon on what's going on down there along the Gulf. Make sure I might need to manually do it here behind the scenes. Apologize for that there.
Despite the fact that the sun has returned, conditions are not better here in Franklin County, Florida. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lobpon from Mississippi Live. The wind has picked up even from yesterday. Gusts today measured just up the road around 50 miles per hour and have been consistently 35 to 45 miles per hour. The water, man, I'm back away from the edge of what would typically be the edge of the water here. The water coming up easily to dune height because of the storm surge related to this system. The center, by the way, of Bertha sits to the west about 100 to 110 miles. So this is the impact we're getting as far away as we are here. You know, the beach erosion obviously impacting the fact disallows folks to get in the water here. The water is closed. The beaches are not quite deserted, but there are other issues that come along with that. You know, this area is a sanctuary for sea turtles, in some cases endangered sea turtles, and those have been widely impacted by this as well. The water level coming up high enough that it has most certainly washed away some nesting areas that are typically blocked off, and there are folks that continue to come and check on those. So we're going to continue again monitoring things here. Hopefully things get a little bit better over the next day or so. The Bertha continues to work its way westward, impacting locations along the Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, eventually Texas Gulf Coast. For Mississippi Live, here in St. George Island, Florida,
Well, thank you, Matt. And I would say calmer conditions here. That will be the case for most of us, but like I mentioned, that limited severe weather threat heading overnight, it remains in place. Tracking that out with the first 12 or 30% around 6, but only about 10 to 20% overnight. That's what I'm talking about. Large part of North Mississippi staying on the calmer side, but that limited threat is there for some of those stronger storms. As we look down there towards where Bertha's moving in, that's where we are getting the result of Bertha. Several of those severe weather reports and those tropical storm warnings remain in place along those coastal regions as well. Here in North Mississippi, not seeing any alerts so far. There is that severe thunderstorm watch a little bit outside of our area towards central parts of Tennessee. That should remain outside of our area. No talk of any watch moving into North Mississippi, showing how limited that potential is. But with that being said, storms are still possible, and we're already getting that into our afternoon commute. Looking at the positioning of these storms, it's right along I-55. So if you're driving, maybe on your evening commute, heading back home, make sure to grab the rain gear and get ready to crank those windshield wipers along I-55. But none of these storms are expected to be severe. When that severe weather threat moves in place is whenever the cold front moves in from our north and west. So that will move in overnight. That's why we have this level 1 threat right along Highway 72, extending into parts of Senatobia, towards Holly Springs, right there towards Ripley, Boonville, Corinth, and Iuka. So that's the area we're focused on overnight. Now, this isn't necessarily the bullseye. We are on the outskirts of this severe weather risk, but that front already doing some damage up there towards Kentucky, where we have had multiple confirmed tornadoes on the ground. So we will continue to monitor this threat into those overnight hours. I know Matt's at the beach, but meteorologist Maggie McCauley and I, we've been communicating on scheduling and making sure that at least we'll have eyes on this into the overnight hours and into your Wednesday. There's that cold front like I was talking about. And as that inches further towards the south and east, we'll eventually move into our area here in North Mississippi. What this front will do is bring the thunderstorms, but also bring some relief by Wednesday and also drive out that tropical storm Bertha from getting all the way into our viewing area. Could we see a few showers and storms from Bertha? Yes. but we're not going to see the heart of that storm like what Matt's seeing there on the coast. So over those overnight hours, you can see how that cold front just inches closer and closer. And while a few storms are possible in advance, the main severe weather threat is along this frontal boundary. You can see just right there on the outskirts where we might get a few rumbles of thunder. Our threat's just so limited. We don't have that daytime heating. Don't get me wrong, we have a ton of heat, but that daytime heating that acts as a lifting mechanism, that's kind of clearing out of those overnight hours. If this was happening 3 p.m., we're looking at a different story. 3 a.m., that's a benefit to our forecast and should limit some of those severe storms. And hopefully we're not talking about anything too major, and I don't believe we are as we head into those overnight hours. That's why it's only a level 1 threat, and that's why it's only clipping the far northern extent of Mississippi. The next 24, we're 20% by 6, 10% by 9. Additional afternoon thunderstorms are possible as that frontal boundary lingers around, but we're not talking about anything severe for that threat, fortunately. So things should be much calmer heading into the rest of the week. But we do get the benefits of the front heading into the rest of the week. Cooler temperatures are on the horizon. We're going to be going over that in much more detail, as well as tracking out those storms once again using our Futurecast for your specific county. Coming up in the next 60 seconds, news and weather coming your way right after the break.
Looking for a place to finally call home? At Tupelo Home Center, we make it easy. From finding the perfect home to making financing a breeze, we'll take care of everything. Your new home is closer than you think. Pre-qualify today at TupeloHomecenter.com.
In 1998, we needed help with the loan. A friend of ours had been using First Choice Bank. First Choice had been helping us ever since.
We just love the service. The tellers are wonderful. They know our names. Why we want to bank anywhere else?
Hi, I'm Mississippi Live Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. Reserve your St. Jude Dream Home giveaway ticket by July 31st, and you'll be eligible to win the house and the early bird prize, a $10,000 gift card to Brooks Grocery. Visit dreamhome.org to reserve your ticket for $100 and help St. Jude Children's Research Hospital continue its life-saving work. Then watch Mississippi Live on October 29th to see who wins the house and the other prizes. Reserve your ticket today.
Good Tuesday evening, everybody. I'm Gabe Maynor here for Mississippi Live News. New Albany Light, Gas, and Water has a new way for you to report power outages. It's called Hometown Grid, and it's live now, available 24/7. Officials say the system means no more busy signals. Every call gets answered, and your report goes directly to the on-call crew. To report an outage, just call or text 888-394-2044 anytime. You'll get an instant confirmation, and your report will show up on a live public outage map at hometowngrid.com/NALGW. There is not an app and no login required, and if you'd rather talk to a representative directly, you can still call 662-534-1041 anytime. Let me tell you, I'm glad there aren't any power outages happening right now because the heat is here in a big way. And nobody likes the heat, but for Mississippi and other nearby states, the heat also racks up huge economic losses on top of feeling pretty overwhelmingly hot and uncomfortable. Research from the Climate Resilience Center says the United States loses an average of $100 billion every year in labor productivity. Agriculture is also a concern. The U.S. loses about $720 million a year to the heat's effect on crops like corn and soybeans. Now we talk about heat. Staying hydrated is a big factor, and folks in Winona unfortunately didn't have a way to do that throughout your Tuesday morning. Update for Winona residents though, city officials say the water line break that knocked out water citywide has been repaired. That's a big time positive, especially with the temperatures we're dealing with today. A 6-inch line blew out around 1 a.m. according to Mayor Flowers, knocking out water for the entire city. City the night to fix the problem, and after this morning, the repair is complete. If you lost pressure though, the city is asking you to boil your water for 3 minutes before using it. The break also washed out Union Street between Republican and Highway 407, but as of lunchtime, that road has reopened. Lots of positive news for folks in Winona, and if you're looking for even more positive news heading through your Tuesday evening, stay tuned to Mississippi Live News to see the very latest on what's happening in your area. And for Mississippi Live News, I'm Gabe Maynor. Keep it here for the very latest.
Boys Boys and Girls Club of North Mississippi presents Dance Like the Stars 2026, Saturday, August 8th at the Huntington Bank Arena. Floor seating is $50 and general admission seating is $20. All proceeds benefit the Boys and Girls Clubs of North Mississippi. For more information, visit bgcnms.org.
Welcome to the next generation of local news, Mississippi Live. Where you are, when you want it, we're focused on you because local matters. We are Mississippi Live.
Hi, my name is Rosie. Regional Rehab Center helps kids like me by offering speech therapy, occupational therapy, and dyslexia therapy. Your support helps so many of us get what we need to grow and succeed. Please help the Rehab Center.
Right now, from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
You know, I've been talking about a severe weather threat possible heading into tonight, but let me tell you this, confidence is not high that we will be getting any of that threat specifically here in North Mississippi. Reason why, that frontal boundary and that lift, that's really out towards Kentucky. My mom and dad are actually out in Kentucky right now, and they were sending me pictures of the storms. Sky's looking completely different than what we have here in North Mississippi, and that's really going to be the case. They're under a level 3 threat. Here in Mississippi, we're under a level 1, and that's only for a slight few of us. Where that confidence stands for those areas in that threat. We're not expecting tornadoes. Some strong gusts out of this. I will say winds are really the focal point heading into this evening and overnight. Limited hail threat. Not really sold on necessarily those hailstones reaching all the way to the ground. I do believe they'll melt and just fall as a heavy rain. But heavy rainfall, that's where we're getting some of that threat as well. That's not necessarily a severe weather threat, but still can be impactful. But I do expect those impacts to be very, very minimal, specifically for our area tonight. That level 1 threat extending from Tunica all the way up there towards Tate and DeSoto County, Marshall, Benton, Tippah, Alcorn, and Tishomingo County under that level 1 threat as well. But like I mentioned, if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, main focal point is actually out there towards Kentucky. We're 95 degrees in Iuka, so we are in a very buoyant atmosphere. It's 81 degree dew points, feeling like 117 degrees. I don't even need to tell you what the main focus of our forecast is. This tells you the complete story as we're dealing with those hot temperatures, and that Iuka view brought to you by the folks there at FM Bank. Over in Booneville, another area under that level 1 threat, we're seeing 95 degrees, feels like 117. Summer's in Mississippi, nothing like it. Dew points at 81, so plenty of moisture out there, making it feel so sticky outside and so uncomfortable once again. Now we are seeing some of that rainfall out there in Shelby. You can see that just west of 55 there as that continues to work its way along that 55 corridor. Our reporting station is down, but that rainfall bringing some much needed rainfall out there towards folks in the Delta and Northwest Mississippi to water those crops. I know I say it at the Maynor household all the time. We love some rain. Don't necessarily want severe weather, but we'd love some rain. I think it's where a lot of us stand here in North Mississippi. So watching along that I-55 corridor, the area there that we're seeing the most rainfall, and that's still pretty isolated in nature, those heaviest portions up there towards Tate and DeSoto County, that's where we're getting some of those lightning strikes as well. Now looking at the latest scans there, you know, I'm not overly sold that this is necessarily strengthening, but it is still something to keep an eye on as that buoyant atmosphere remains in place. Now, you might be looking at me and saying, Gabe, swap over to the Memphis radar site. Well, Memphis radar site is actually down. Why is it down? Because of the heat. That's right. So this report, let me see whenever it dropped out. It was earlier on. Yeah, you can see how that has not updated since about 4:30 or so. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get a view out of there. We're going to have to keep using our Monroe County radar site, but we get the picture, we get the image, and it's just going to be a lot of that heavy rainfall. Speaking of, let's look at those rainfall rates, and looking specifically on that storm, I do see a pocket there where we're talking about some heavier showers, that just west of Alphaba coming in about 4.5 inches an hour. But if we're comparing this to any severe weather risk or our peak threats, it's all coming in the form of some heavy rainfall. So no need to worry about any hail or any of those strong gusty winds, at least not yet for folks up there in Tate and DeSoto County, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that even into the overnight hours as well. That brings us full circle to the main threat that we have been watching. Heat. We've been talking about it all weekend and all week long with heat advisories in place for Yalobusha, Lafayette, Montgomery, and Attala, and all the way out east into that Alabama-Mississippi state line. Extreme heat warnings in place along the river towards the Mississippi Delta and northwest Mississippi. What's the difference? Well, it's anywhere from about a 5-degree feels like value here in North Mississippi. So yes, temperatures reading in the mid to upper 90s. Yes, we're talking about some of the hottest temperatures of the year. Senatobia coming in at 98 degrees, Greenville at 98 as well. We'll look at those high temperatures coming up at 6, but you get the picture. It's toasty, it's hot, and it feels miserable. We're talking 115 Clarksdale, 116 Tunica, 118 Cleveland, 111 Bruce and Eupora, 108 Amory and Starkville, and yeah, we're only in an orange out there in northwest Alabama, but that's still talking about 103 degrees, feels like values at 5 o'clock. It's hot, simply put, and that's the main focus of our forecast heading into the next 24 hours. We do see those storms moving into those overnight hours. 30% might be overdoing it, but I at least wanted to let you know that some storms are possible. So as we head out to maybe grab that ice cream cone or anything like that, make sure to have the rain gear ready just in case as that boundary remains overhead. This is a look around 8 o'clock on your Tuesday, how that kind of remains along that I-55 corridor, maybe varying a little bit by a few miles, but 55, a pretty good focal point there. And as we continue by 10 o'clock, looks like things are drying up, and overall they are, until that frontal boundary starts to move into North Mississippi. Unfortunately, it looks like my surface analysis did not get put on there, but you can see by 3 a.m., 4, 5, 6 o'clock this week, monitoring these storms. Potentially monitoring experiments by this during the overnight hours. Yes, a nominal threat. High still, where we have ways to get those alerts just in case those spring up where you are. Now, as we look at low upper Mississippi state line, but low 80s to start the day out there in the Delta for your Wednesday. So it's even going to be toasty in the morning time. We're 80 degrees by 8. We are 91 by noon. We're 93 by 3. So there is going to be a little bit of a step back from where we're sitting at today, and those UV indices anywhere from that moderate to high level. So wear that sunscreen if you're heading to the pool to have one way to beat the heat. So tracking that out, there's your surface analysis. There's the front that I was wanting to show you by 7 a.m. extending across North Mississippi, and it will gradually just kind of sit there. And while it sits there, that allows for additional development into the afternoon, including some of these pop-up showers and storms by 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. Now, coverage not overly high, at least not overly high for the first part of the afternoon. But as we wrap up those afternoon plans, there's that line starting to develop once again. And while the frontal boundary is pushing a little bit more towards the south and east, I really expect it right there where those winds collide. That's really the positioning of that cold front. So still overhead here in North Mississippi, going to allow some additional chances during the afternoon. That'll be a great benefit to us here in North Mississippi because you can see south of the front, we're in the mid to upper 90s once again. North of the front, low 90s. That's not bad considering where we're at today, and I know a lot of folks will definitely take low 90s compared to the mid to upper 90s that they sit at right now. Feels like value still going to be mid to upper 90s north of Highway 6, but south of 6, that's where we're still talking anywhere from 105 to 110 degrees, well into that heat advisory threshold, so I do expect a few of those to be extended into our Wednesday. Now, as that front lingers around, we'll allow additional development of some showers overnight. Not expecting anything severe. These are going to, at most, be a heavy downpour, but that's even pushing it with these chances. Your Thursday morning starting off much better. Breath of fresh air. 69 degrees Corinth, Iuka, and Holly Springs. There's what a cold front should do, making it feel a little bit cooler here in North Mississippi. And even those areas that were starting in the 80s, 74 degrees isn't bad for where we'll be starting on our Thursday. So going about our Thursday plans, we are going to be dodging a few pop-up showers here and there, but overall coverage should come down a good bit. We actually have to extend it out and we'd be able to see where the heaviest rainfall is. And that's going to go right south of this front where Bertha will continue to bring impacts. This is Bertha right here, indicated by that low pressure system south of Louisiana, and that will continue to wrap around those bands of moisture. This front, another benefit that this front is adding, is the fact that it's keeping Bertha down along those coastal regions. While we don't want Bertha in place at all, it's not going to affect us too much here in North Mississippi. We're going to continue to get showers, but that really is a result of this frontal boundary lingering around, driving some of that afternoon convection and a few of those showers and storms popping up as well. Are these going to be severe? No. These are just going to be some of those heavy downpours during the afternoon. Lightning could become a factor, but even then, if you look at the coverage, not overly intense. So once again, tonight is that best night to see maybe a strong storm. Beyond that, it's just going to be your typical summer pattern where we see those spotty showers and storms. But heat wants to continue to remain the story for sure. We're seeing 93 degrees Belzona and Greenwood, 85 though Red Bay and Iuka. That's a nice break from the heat considering we're feeling like 117 in Iuka. Is that what it read? Yeah, 85. That's a winter's day compared to where we're at right now. And those feels like values going to be comfortable as well in the mid to upper 80s. Honestly, if we can dodge some of those rain showers, Thursday might be the opportunity the Mainers get their yard mowed. I wouldn't be surprised at all if more of you guys followed suit with me. If we look at rain chances, though, really going to be spotty over the next several days as we wrap up the work week and into the weekend. That's where we're seeing about 30% coverage, even a few rumbles of thunder possible, but we're really keeping it 20 to 30% coverage each and every day. Where we get the drier conditions to move in is by Monday and Tuesday next week. Now let's talk about that. You see temperatures are clearly increasing into the start of the week. We're in the mid to upper 90s Monday and for your Tuesday, but no chance of rain. That's what we call a dry heat. And whenever dry heat is in place, that allows temperatures to get even higher. It feels like values to come a little bit lower because that moisture and that humidity is moving on out. So it's going to feel pretty much the same over this 7-day stretch. Low 90s with moisture will feel right around that triple digit mark. Upper 90s with very little moisture will still feel around that triple digit mark. So that's what we're going to be watching heading over this next 7-day stretch. Now, before I wrap up the show, I do want to talk about the storms tonight. If you're asking, Gabe, and let me pull up the chat here real quick. If you're asking if you need to stay up tonight, no. You do not need to stay up tonight to monitor the storms. Is there any tornado threat near Cleveland, Mississippi? No, there's no tornado threat tonight. So that's where I would say we are all good to go to bed. We don't need to stay up and monitor these storms. At least you guys don't. But we will be monitoring things here. And if we do go live, we'll send out an alert. But as we pull up as I pull up Weather Call, that's something that we partner with here on Mississippi Live Weather. And it's not just something we show. We show it for a reason. And we show it because it keeps folks safe. Matt goes ahead and calls you guys right here on your phone that I know a lot of you are probably on right now. He'll call you and let you know if there's a tornado. He'll call back if it's confirmed. Now, that's not expected tonight. But he'll call back for severe storms. If you're wanting to get away from maybe the trees on one side of the house and go sleep on the other side, I would go ahead and do that in advance. But if you want that heads up, Matt will call you and let you know. He'll also call back for major flooding. So it's a great partnership that we have here at Mississippi Live Weather. Scan the QR code there on the bottom of your screen. $15 a year could make all the difference and has saved countless lives across not only Mississippi, but all over the nation. So go ahead and sign up for that today if you want to get those alerts overnight and want to get that restful night ahead. But please do not stay up tracking these storms. That's our job. That's what we will do here on Mississippi Live Weather. And we'll keep you guys updated as we head into the night. So download Weather Call, download the Mississippi Live Weather app. If you want that QR code, they're right there on the bottom of your screen. Free and available on iOS and Android. You can tune in for all the latest local weather. And as you saw a little bit earlier on with myself and Emily, of course, covering it the last couple of weeks, Mississippi Live News is in full force as well. So if you want to know what's going on here in North Mississippi, we look for it, we'll find it, we'll let you know what's happening, all the latest stories, all the latest events, and that will not only continue for 5 o'clock, but that's going into every broadcast, and it's free and available on the app as well. So give that app a download, tune in to our broadcast. Next broadcast going to be at 6 p.m. We're going over all things Bertha and all things severe weather risk using our threat tracker, so keep it here for the very latest, and if you have any questions for that broadcast, put those down in the chat, and we'll be happy to talk about that in much more detail coming up at 6. We'll see you then.